I know I've referenced him in every episode, so today I'm finally sitting down with my mentor, gut health guru, master of cellular detoxification, the Godfather of Colonics, Gil Jacobs. We ended up sitting down for 4 hours, so this episode is actually going to be separated into 2 parts because I want you to be able to fully digest all of the information that he has to share. I do want to note 3 disclaimers. 1, the setup is not what you're used to, which is right here in my apartment. We actually traveled to Gil's so that he was able to see clients in between our interview. 2, the energy of Gil's place is so powerful that it ended up taking out one of our microphones and we were left to share one mic. 3, it's important for me to say that Gil is absolutely the person I turn to for all things health and wellness, but he has been doing this lifestyle for decades, so he's pretty deep in it, meaning he's very, very radical. So keep in mind that what works for him, like he'll mention dry fasting, might not work for you, and he even notes that himself. Gil has an incredible understanding of the digestive and elimination process, and he's the person to have a comprehensive discussion with about how our bodies work. So without further ado, here's my interview with Gil Jacobs. I just want to note we are not in my apartment, which you guys are all used to seeing. We have traveled to Gil because you're easily my most important guest, in my opinion.
Oldest.
Oldest guest, okay. But you're like my mentor and guru and who I go to for everything. And I just want to talk to you and hear from you about like all things detox, food combining, cleansing, you already know what you're getting into.
Let's do it.
You knew you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, for sure.
So I am going to ask you questions, but really take a seat because I want, and the people want to hear from you. So
let's do it.
My first question I want to know is, how do you feel about being called the Godfather of Colonics?
Mike Perrine did that. It's very funny, and I'll tell you a great story with that. Because we're all from Staten Island. Mike Perrine, Tom DeVito, myself, we're all Guidos from Staten Island. So that was the origin of where it came from. But when I did a thing at Cat Beauty, Cindy's space, she made this printout, and the person misprinted it and put the grandfather of colonics on the printout. And I pitched, I let them have it. I'm like, no, it's not about that. I think the reason that started is because when the health movement kicked in New York, when the raw food vegan movement kicked in, it was the late 90s. That's when it broke open. And it broke open simultaneously with the internet, social media, social network breaking open at the same time. So all of a sudden, these 2 things met, and the internet was filled with people talking fruitarianism, fasting, blah, blah, blah. But the origin of their knowledge was a group of people called the hygienists. Well, the hygienists were a bunch of people started back in the 20s by a guy named Herbert Shelton. And Shelton's belief was, and sadly this still exists amidst a lot of people into radical nutrition, and it can kill you. His belief was that whatever natural man did at the beginning of time or didn't do is what we should do or not do. Yes, but he's wrong for a lot of reasons we can discuss. So there were a whole bunch of people being taught, don't juice because, you can't get juice in nature. Don't do colonics, it's unnatural. That was very much prevalent in the opening of the raw food movement in the 90s. So from that, when that was buzzing around, the people who thought what I was doing were the other team. And since I was older than everyone else, I became like the voice of the people. Wait a minute, if you're going to do this dietetic, you need to pay really major attention to elimination. Yeah. So that's where that came from.
I know you had a health scare in your 20s.
Well, it was a lot worse than a scare. It was a suicide attempt is what it was. When I was in my early 20s, the person I was very connected to, I'm not going to give a description because I don't know who's listening, but someone I was very connected to decided to marry someone else. And it didn't sit well. And I was a very Camusian, iconoclastic kid at that time. It wasn't through heartbreak. It was more through, very existential. I was 22. So I drank hydrochloric acid, which is a poison. There was a skull and crossbones on the bottle. I got it from a friend who was a chemist. And I drank a teaspoon and immediately started puking up guts. Like it was a burn beyond the burn. And it was like stewed tomatoes were coming out of me. And I was thinking, I don't want to fucking die. What the hell am I doing? Like in that moment, you realize, maybe you don't want to lose it. So I drank a quart of milk to coat the poison, which shows you how thick and mucousy milk is, that it immediately just stops the thing. And I went to an emergency room and they kept me alive. But what happened was, over the course of the next 2 weeks, the acid that was in the system started to rot me away. And within about a month or two, I had lost a radical amount of weight. I was down to 109 pounds. And I'm 5'11". And my skin turned green-yellow because of the damage to the liver. I couldn't pee. They told me they needed to remove the left kidney. I'm like, no, we're not giving up body parts in our 20s. So I couldn't pee, and my hair fell out, my teeth rotted out. It was horrible. And it got to the point where the edema, the water retention, was so bad from the bad kidney that the measurement of my ankle was much bigger than the measurement of my thigh. That's how much water was collecting and how I was wasting away. And it was about 8 months after that, somebody gave me a book about alternative healing, which wasn't a good one, but it got me into investigating. And then I discovered through the great Norman Walker, the father of the Norwalk press juicer, the whole concept of juicing, diet, purging the bowel, purging the kidneys, Arnold Ehret, the great mucusless diet healing system, two of the most important writers to me in human history. And from that, looked up in the yellow pages back in '83, and there was one colonic space. I was living on Staten Island in Manhattan on 120 East 34th Street, chiropractor named Stanley Kestenbaum. Went there, realized this is where it's at, jumped in major, and over the course of a couple of years, everything I had, every affliction fixed, including growing a head of hair back. I actually grew a molar back. Everything just resurged. And one of the things we learn in this is that when you take cleansing to the ultimate degree, we're getting right into the profound out of the gate here. When you get into cleansing to the ultimate degree, the last thing you cleanse is the bone marrow. And in the bone marrow is the DNA. And when you cleanse through to the DNA, if you did this strong enough and in a perfect setting, that once you tap into the DNA, everything goes where humans are supposed to go. And I did experience that to a slight degree. I grew my hair back. I was bald like Stanley Tucci, the actor, when I was deathly ill. And I grew a molar back. My doctor, Elsa Friedman, I remember, she goes, what is this? She looked at the x-ray. She had pulled the tooth years before, and there it was, 3/4 back. I knew a guy who grew half a finger back that worked with the great Victor Kulvinskas, one of the great healers. So this kid, he was a carpenter, lost a finger in a carpentry accident with a buzzsaw. And he worked with Victor. He was living on sprouts, juice, wheatgrass, fruits, enemas, colonics, sprouts, juice, meditation, purges. And then he wasn't thinking and he looked up and there was 2/3 of a finger. And I saw it. I asked him, I said, hey, what's with that weird finger? And he explained it to me. So when I was deathly ill, I was broken, and I didn't really expect to get better. I just knew the diet and colonics, the juicing, the abstinence from bad food, saunas. I was not dying anymore, and I could function at a given level. And I was happy to just stay there, like semi-broken. And then all of a sudden, and I remember it was 1986, I looked in I said, oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to gain weight, even though I'm eating this cleansing light diet. I'm starting to get oomph. And all of a sudden, I just grew out like the phoenix. I didn't really expect that to happen. And by the time it hit 87, I was fully whole again. Everything I do is the reason I'm not dead. That's why people come. There's a truth in what I'm doing because it's the reason I'm here. It's not an angle.
Yeah, no, when I first read about you, I've been coming here for years now, but when I first read about you, I remember it was on CAP's website, The Thinking Cap, and you said that, and Cindy was interviewing you, and she asked you what health meant to you, and you said health is the opposite of death.
Yeah, it's about vitality, and the other thing it is too, when the cells are healthy, and this is a point the culture really wants to get. Most people in America think healthy means asymptomatic. For every 10 people on the planet under 40, 9 of them are asymptomatic. Means they feel okay, they don't have an overt sickness that a doctor would write in a clip pad. But of that 10, 1 of them are healthy.
Yeah.
They're all sickness waiting to happen because they eat normal food, they drink, they take medication. They sit in front of a computer, they stress. All of that makes you sick. Now, that doesn't mean you're symptomatic in that moment, but you're sick. You see? And what people don't understand is when the cells get truly healthy and clean, which is what this lifestyle is, they also get very benign and nice and sweet. Yeah. And we come to my most used phrase that I've coined in this business: clean cells can't be mean. All the things that are wrong on the planet occur because the perpetrator has a poisoned being. Yeah. Now, it's interesting how the world will accept, oh, maybe it's a kid grew up in a poor neighborhood, didn't have parents. The things that traumatized them as youth turned them into a bad adult. Everyone accepts that. But what they don't accept is that the traumatic food they poisoned their body with, all the garbage from birth to 20, creates a traumatized host. It creates a physically traumatized body, which sends negative impulses up the spinal cord to the brain. There are no healthy people ravaging other humans. There are no clean cell people doing anything harmful to anyone else. And if the whole world got into this lifestyle eventually, you could get rid of locks, you could get rid of police, you could get rid of security, because clean cells don't hurt other people. So the scope of living this way goes far beyond just avoiding getting cancer because it runs in my family. It goes to create a world of benevolence. It truly is the most hidden important secret on the planet. And you know this when you get off the table after a great colonic. In that moment,
You've seen it in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like,
and all you feel is joy and fabulousness and love. Like it would be impossible for you to be hurtful to someone in that moment. Yeah. So the trick of the life is to have that moment every moment. And if everyone does simultaneously, we have a fabulous planet.
I totally agree. We're having a little tech issues, so we will be using one mic for this interview, but that is no problem. We don't mind sharing.
Not at all. Plus, it's the East Village. Everything goes backwards. That's how it is here.
That's how we roll. In your words, can you define the cleansing life?
Yeah, I think one of the big things people have to know when you get into this, most people get turned on by what are the things I have to do? What are the things I have to eat and take in? And of course that's important. But the equal half of cleansing is what you stop doing. It's what you don't do. Otherwise we get what I used to call wheat germ on Cocoa Puffs, which means that a lot of people think if they do enough of the right things, that then allows them to do a lot of the wrong things. It's not, we don't play that way. So the biggest thing with cleansing is to understand first that humans are in the primate family. We're gorillas, we're chimps, we're monkeys. This is the family, the genus we are in. When someone asks you, are you vegan? The answer from everyone is yes. Now, whole bunch of people, maybe 90% of the planet, chooses not to live that way, which is their choice. I'm not one of these people that yell at people for eating meat. You do what you have to do. But we're all vegans by nature. We have the fingers of a gorilla, they mash plants. We have the teeth of a rabbit, they mash plants. We have the liver of a gorilla. If you look at the anatomy of a human and a monkey, they're the same. You look at a lion and tiger, who are naturally carnivorous, you see a liver twice the size to break down the meat, an intestine half the size, because the intestine of a lion is not meant to take in plants, which expand. Plant matter expands in the colon because of the water and fiber. Meat matter sits tight. So the lion has a very small, dense colon, half the length of ours, where the liver's twice as big. So all humans are vegan. 80% probably choose not to be. Does this mean one has to be vegan to cleanse? No, it does not. But it means they have to be plant-based. And one of the big misconceptions, it turns off a lot of people, intimidates a lot of people from trying the life, is that plant-based does not mean vegan. It means based. The bulk of what we do is plants. When you watch a film and it says based on real occurrences, it doesn't mean the movie is shot for shot perfect. They took a truth and embellished. So you can be plant-based and eat pork chops at the same time. What it means is you outline a diet which is structurally sound. Vegetable juice in the morning. Lunch is either fruit or salad with avocados. Dinner is a salad with cooked starchless vegetables, and then a meat, a grain, a bean, a fish, a chunk of cheese, whatever you want in that third box of the algorithm. That's a heavily plant-based diet that could have pork chops and chicken in it once a day. So you mix the two. Cleansing is improvement. So it's a gentle progress, not perfection. That's what we look to do when we work with people. One of the big mistakes, you get people who are all out vegan, raw fooders, this, that, and they push their dogma on the unknowing normal person. And what they end up doing is awakening poison to such a great degree that people get deathly ill. So we don't want to do that because this is not about ego and sensationalism. It's about a gentle bringing into a high space. So cleansing is the gradual but steady elevation of the vibration of a diet, connecting to the gradual but steady elimination of all that's bad with colonics enemas mixed in to remove all matter, thus making us the best possible us's we can be, which is really the goal of all of this. It's clean cells will allow us to become the best possible humans we can be. Our potential is maxed in a clean vessel. Hence, Jesus did a 40-day fast. Gandhi did a 40-day fast. Pythagoras, before the Africans taught him geometry, was told to do a 40-day fast. The connection of clean cells with higher elevation is what this is about.
Okay, wow. So I guess, what are the benefits of colonics?
Oh yeah, this is a big answer.
And what happens with the buildup of toxins in the body? What happens to the body? What happens to the person?
There's a lot of people out there who talk this. They're going to say colonics aren't natural. The body can eliminate whatever it needs to. Well, if you go back 1,000 years and you took a child, that might be true. But what happens is there are two massive factors that make that an incorrect statement. The first and most obvious, none of us know about food when we're growing up. Our parents didn't know anything. You think about all you put in your body from birth, say, to 25. The Captain Crunch, the Fluffernutter, the peanut butter sandwiches, the shitty food, the cake, the cookies, the Dunkin' Donuts, the chicken McNuggets, all the nonsense. Then you get into college. You got the dorm food, all the food eaten at 2 a.m., the beer, the alcohol, the Jägermeister, maybe the club drugs, maybe a little crystal meth, maybe a little coke, the depression, the anger, the fear, the regret. All these things stick in the cells like iron. They poison our vessel. They collect in the cells because they're not meant to be there. They inflame the tissue. So now you're 30 or maybe 27 and you discover this health world. You want to start cleansing. To think that when you start eating salads, fruits, and juices, that they're just going to find their way through is erroneous. And one of the other fun sayings is you don't develop a short memory in the cleansing business. And what this means is everything you put in your system from birth to whatever, wherever age you are now, that is not a fruit or vegetable, all the junk food, all the burgers, all the buffalo wings, residue of that is lodged in your colon. So that when you start eating the right thing, all the good foods get blocked by this embedded cement. And the good foods will shake it loose. They emulsify like easy off oven cleaner on a dirty oven wall. They're going to loosen up all this embedded matter. That's why people get gas and pass gas and get embarrassed and bloat when they eat raw food, because they're emulsifying this embedded cemented matter. Now, the human colon by nature, talking about natural, is meant to pass yesterday's celery. It is not meant to pass 10 years ago's focaccia. So when somebody starts eating well and awakens years of old matter, the point will come, their bowels paralyze. They stop going and they're baffled. I'm eating all this fruit. Why aren't I going? You're going because all this unnatural matter you collected in your years of ignorance is now awakened and in your colonic tract, your colon tract. You have two choices. Get it out, or it goes back into the blood. And when it goes back in after being awakened, it's much worse than when it's sitting around. So once you get to a given age, you have to acknowledge the years of your error. A lot of this lifestyle is about loss of ego and the taking on of humility. Look, I damaged myself for a given amount of decades. I'm going to need help to heal. The colonics are the means to remove all the old matter that the new diet you're taking on awakens. I don't die because I don't get food. You don't die because you don't get heroin. But once you're poisoned, most people are poisoned by food. Once you have enough food residue in your being, you have to have some poison gradually, or you can drop dead, the same way the heroin addicts would die with no heroin. So you've got to ease your way through, and that's why cleansing should be done nice and slowly. But nobody dies from lack of food. They die from old residue shaking loose from not eating, not leaving. It's a huge differentiation here. Do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean. I guess what some people that are listening might get confused with is like, I always hear the thing, like, I'm doing all the right things, aka I'm eating the kale, and you said, like, the fruitarian,
right.
I'm eating the fruit.
But I'm sick, why isn't it working?
I feel like shit. Why do I feel like shit? Like, what if it's like the processed foods though, like, and stuff like that?
What makes people feel sick when they're eating really well?
Where do the processed foods fit in versus like?
In other words, when people live off shitty food, they're getting poisoned the same way a heroin addict is. It's just slower.
Processed foods.
Yeah, anything that's not a fruit or vegetable, and then it's a continuum.
Okay.
A free-range organic steak is bad food, but it's not as bad as fish and chips. Okay. Do you see what I mean? It's all on a continuum. But the point is, the reason the person who eats really well, and you hear this all the time, I'm juicing, I'm eating salads, I stopped eating meat and bread, and I still feel like shit. Why? Is because no one's talking the back end. They're not pulling out the old matter that the good food is kicking up. The completion of cleansing does not come simply from juicing and fasting and drinking a detox tea. That's setting the table for the cleanse. Yeah. The cleanse comes when that matter is out of your cells. The only way that happens is if you're blessed with a cast iron colon, which most people are not, or you do colonics. Do you see?
I do.
Loosen, remove is what healing is, not just loosen.
Right.
Which is what a lot of people do. They do the loosening process and think that's detoxification. Mm-hmm. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's step one.
It's about what comes out.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay. I wanted to make sure everyone understood, like, if just the whole processed food versus whole foods and all that.
Well, all processed food is junk.
Which is.
But most whole food is junk. Tofu is not health food, it's junk.
Oh, yeah.
Tempeh is junk.
Tofu is...
Couscous is junk.
Anything that's man-made is junk.
Greek yogurt is junk. All pasteurized dairy,
Yeah.
whether it's low-fat, Greek, bought in a gourmet, is junk.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
The only food truly efficacious to the human organism is fruit, vegetables, and human mother milk from a clean person.
Yes.
See? Now, does that mean people should just eat that? No, because the same way to heal a heroin addict, you have to give him small amounts of heroin and then methadone. You do mini poisoning. Yeah. That's what we do in cleansing. Mm-hmm. So a diet is not all fruit and vegetables. It's fruit in the morning, salad, avocado for lunch, or maybe salad, whole grain, toast, potato, yam, quinoa, millet, all of which are imperfect, but allowable because that's our heroin. You see, once we make the connection to the concept, it illuminates the whole idea.
That makes sense, and especially...
Nice and slow and easy with time.
what can the buildup of toxins do to the body?
Sure. This is a fun one because I came up with a really fun, goofy, but I believe accurate analogy. What happens with people? A lot of people, when you bring this stuff up, and it's a solid thing, will say, "Oh, what's nonsense? I have friends. They eat and drink like shit. They look fine. They work out. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them." And I'll say, "Yeah, but they're in their 20s and 30s. So they're still young." I have to remember, it has been biologically and anthropologically proven that humans are meant to live to 123. That's supposed to be the average lifespan, based on the amount of years it takes a mammal to become an adult mammal of the species. The longer it takes, the longer a dog is a fully grown dog at a year, hence they live to 16, 17, 18. A horse is a fully grown horse at 9 or 10, hence they live into the 40s. A human's not till 18. When you look at the scales they form, we're supposed to make it to 123. The reason we don't is because no one knows the things we're talking about. Okay, so now, the question about, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the build-up. Here's a great analogy for the normal human person's experience in life. If you've ever seen the movie Titanic, the DiCaprio, the famous film, right? One of the things I love in the film, it's a perfect example of what goes on in the human body for the average person. If you remember the scene where they realize, oops, we're about to hit the iceberg. They slam into the iceberg, the water starts pouring in the bottom, up, everybody's about to die, right? But if you think of the film, for the next 45 minutes of the movie, the people up on the top, that was the scene where Leo was drawing Kate Winslet with the thing around her neck, and they were sitting in the old-fashioned cars and dancing and having a great time, and the dinner, and they were fine. Yeah. Now, why were they fine? They were fine because the hole in the bottom of the boat, which now had water pouring in, which is not a good scene, it hadn't collected enough water yet for the entire population of the boat to realize they were going to be screwed in the very near future. See, a human, now what happens in the film, they start collecting, and now everyone realizes their boat is full of water. There is no place to hide. The boat turns vertical. They're fucked, right? Now that's it. It's over. That's the human experience. We're born with this big empty vessel. You see? In order to really feel the illness, the vessel has to collect enough poison to where our boat starts tipping over. And it's at that point we look up and go, oh my, I'm sick. But it started the minute that boat started collecting. What this life, in essence, would be the equivalent is if we ran on that boat, emptied all the water off, glued the boat back together, and saved everybody. That's what cleansing is. We're going to try to empty our boats of all that water that collected in the bottom that we were unaware of because it was still a small amount. But that tipping point comes where now there's too much water in our boat. I have arthritis, I have cancer, I have leukemia, I have multiple sclerosis. All that means is the cells have collected so much matter, there's no place to hide. And there's a term medical doctors use that's really good called leaky gut. Every sickness, brain cancer is leaky gut. What it implies is that the colon is holding so much poop, and the body is all spongy, the poop is permeating the colon and running through the entire organism.
You have waste all over.
So there's waste everywhere. When a given organ gets so much waste that the body realizes this woman's going to die, it creates a tumor. The tumor's function is to eat up the poison in a dying organ. This is the reason when a person first gets diagnosed with cancer, they're alive, they're okay. Because stage 1 of a tumor is to eat the poison. Now, if you don't know what to do and you do chemo and you eat shitty, once that tumor eats the poison, it devours the organ. And it's at that point you get razor thin and die. That's the experience of cancer. Yeah. You see? But cancer originally is the body's last attempt to save a dying organ. If we step in, cleanse, remove enough old matter, get the organ to dump toxins. If it's quick enough, it's a horse race. The body will put the tumor to bed because it sees the cleansing is coming from someplace else and the person can live. Yeah. So what happens in the system is basically what happens in the Titanic. The meat, the bread, the cheese, the junk food, the alcohol, the drugs. Birth to 25, got a big open boat, not enough yet. 25 to 45, I can't run full court the way I used to. I can't have sex as often as I used to. I don't run as fast as I used to. I'm getting these little symptoms like I didn't used to. That means your boat is starting, you're seeing water at your feet. Like, hey, we got a leak in the boat here, guys. Even though we're still walking around, there's a leak in the boat. Now it's up to your knee. You're in your 60s. The water's up to here. It's the same exact experience. The way the water permeates the Titanic is the way the poisoned food over the decades, if we keep jamming it in, permeates our being. And it gets to the point where there's so much necrotic tissue. Necro means death. There's so many necrotic organs in our body that we expire. We expire the same way the boat capsizes when it's totally full. That's what happens to a human body. That's why people get sick old. Now, the only thing that makes it tricky, why do some people get sick at 6, 7, 8, 12, 19, 20? The concept of inherited energy. One of the other big reasons you have to go slowly when you change diet is the concept of inherited energy. And 98% of the people into radical diet don't understand it, don't acknowledge it, and that's why a lot of people who step into radical diets get ill. If two heroin addicts have a baby, we expect a sick baby, right? Everyone expects. Well, why? Because the sperm and the egg that produce the baby give to the baby the toxicity or health that they possess. So a heroin addict is a cesspool. The girl is a cesspool. If she's a heroin addict, we expect a damaged baby. Well, what if a cheeseburger, pizza, alcohol man has a baby with a risotto, steak and eggs woman? We have a damaged baby. All the afflictions our children have come through our lineage. So what inherited energy means, you go back 1,000 years, you look at a culture. What was their diet? Let's say it was people from Ireland. Soda bread, cheese, meat, beer. Soda bread, cheese, meat, beer. For thousands of years, all bad food. Now, it's the year 10-something. Two people eating like this have a kid. Kid's damaged. That kid meets another kid when they get older. They've all eaten this shit. Now it's 2 generations deep. They have a kid. Uber damage. By time we get 100,000 years of terrible eating, we get born in the 20th century heavily mutated. We've been mutated by this lineage of bad eating. Each generation poisons the next one. There's a Dr. Pottinger did a great study with cats. People should read this. It's too involved. We could get into it. It gets very involved. Dr. Pottinger and his study on sickness with cats, it'll freak you out. So now we have pizza, cheeseburger, people having kids. They have kids, poison. And the poison keeps getting deeper. We get born into 2020. We're born damaged before we eat anything. We are cesspools at birth because we've inherited sperm and egg. We're babies from poison lineage. If you come from Poland, Hungary, Ireland, Romania, those countries didn't have a lot of produce. Those were heavy meat, milk, beer countries, heavy breads, sugars. So by time you get born from that type of background, you're coming in very compromised. You cannot just say, like a lot of the raw fooders teach, well, I'm just going to eat fruit and vegetables because that's what humans are meant to do. You're not really fully human. We're all mutated, all people. You can die. Yeah, you get deathly ill. And whenever I meet young vegan people who've tried really hard, even sometimes with the colonics, it doesn't work, that you must acknowledge your inherited energy. Yeah. If you're Eastern European, you should get into a plant-based diet, but don't get too radical until because it might be too much for you. Do you see what I mean?
Until you're ready for it.
And you may never be.
Okay.
The inherited energy is that strong. Mm-hmm. You see? So we need to step in and see how fast can we go.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Look at our lineage.
Yeah.
To
And then
determine.
that's why a nice basic diet, juice in the morning, salad with quinoa millet for lunch, salad, fish, chicken, omelet for dinner is step one. But that protein at night, it'll keep you from getting sick. And then if you want to test it, step it up. Juice in the morning, fruit for lunch, salad with a potato and cooked beets. See how it feels.
Yeah.
And you can determine through trial and error how much your inherited energy affects you. See? But again, the other factor is when we take on diets like this, if we first start not feeling good, we need to do a few colonics first, because more than likely the reason is you need a flush. But if you're doing, and I've seen this, if you're doing the colonics and it's a year in and you're still just, more than likely you're Irish, Polish, stick some protein in and you'll be solid. See? So we believe in plant-based, but we don't push veganism on anyone. We don't push anything on anyone.
When I asked you to do this interview, you were excited about the season change. You were like, yes, March season change. I've been talking about this a bunch on Instagram because I think it's important, and just the fact that our bodies are totally resetting like with nature.
Yes.
Can you go?
Sure.
Can you dive into that?
What happens when the seasons change, it all has to do with the magnetic pull from the moon onto the planet. There's a shift. That's why the tides go crazy. The oceans go crazy when the season changes, because the moon, the magnetic pull, affects all the water on the planet. The planet gets shifted. The water on the planet gets greatly shifted. So when you take a day like today, today's the 21st, we're taping this. Today is the spring, right? So it's called the, is it the vernal equinox? Yeah, the vernal equinox. Today is the first day of spring. Now what's happening, all the water on the planet is greatly shifting. The human body is a high percentage, I don't know what it is, 70, 80% water. All the water within us is doing a total shift and move around. This is why so many people have issues at season changes. So it's really, really important on these 4 days, 21st of this month, June 21st, September, December, the 4 season changes, 2 equinoxes, 2 solstices, to really be aware of your health, protect your health, because there's radical movement. Sometimes it makes you feel fabulous. But for a lot of people who aren't in good health, I guarantee you there's a lot of fever and sickness today.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's allergies kick in. That's why so many people get sick around Christmas, before Christmas, because the toughest one is the December solstice, the winter solstice. So season change is a challenge to the body. There've been a lot of studies that when women menstruate, if their menstruation comes on one of those 4 days, it's a killer. It's really rough for them if it happens to hit on one of the solstices or equinoxes. So that's the whole connection between seasons and health. This week is a week to really mind your P's and Q's if you're into a health life, because we're all a little more vulnerable around season changes. Like if you're into this life, and everyone has their ebb and their flow, this is a time you want to flow. You want to really do it to the comfort level that you can do it the best.
And
you know?
want to have those high vibe foods.
Yes.
Have those,
Yeah.
The produce, the new.
100%.
All the life force.
For people just beginning, there's a couple of basic rules that for very beginners we want to do. One, the only choices in morning for taking things in nutritively are either vegetable juice or the eating of fruits. That's it. We don't do powders. We don't do nut milks. We don't do soaked chia seeds. We don't do protein powders. We don't eat Ezekiel toast or eggs or granola, or I'm blending goji berries with some type of nut. Forget all that. Juice or fruits, because they're alkaline and they get through the body quickly. That's choice one. Choice two, if you're a real beginner and it's hard to eat too light, do raw vegetables and follow that immediately with cooked vegetables with either a grain-based dish, wild rice, rice pilaf, whole grain, toast, breads, millet, croquettes, whatever you want. That gives enough calories. It keeps the diet clean and in good combination. So salad, cooked beets, millet croquettes, that type of deal. Right? That would be a lunch thing. We don't do proteins in the daytime because they're too slow through the body. Now, let's say you're a little past that. A higher level would be fruits in the morning, and lunch, just do a green salad, cut up an avocado or two. Avocados are a fabulous food to cleanse because they don't cleanse and they don't poison. They're in the middle. They're neutral. Avocados, olives, olive oil. So they're a heavy food that can slow our cleansing without clogging us up. That's why we love avocados in the life. So a salad with 2 avocados is 1 vibration higher than a salad cooked quinoa and beets. Okay, now, if we're a little past that and we've been in the loop, the summer's coming, and I love this as a lifetime diet. Veggie juice in the morning, lunch is 1 pound up to 2 pounds of fruit in season, dinner is a big green salad with something heavy after it. That's a rad diet. If you do that your whole life, do the colonics and enemas when you sense a symptom coming. When you're eating like that and you get a symptom, that symptom means you need a flush. Whether it's a headache, pimples, hair coming out in the shower, my back hurts, my neck hurts, I'm angry, I'm weak, I'm bloated, I have a fever, I have pimples, you need the colonic action. That means the good diet has awakened a level of matter, you need some help. So that's how one can navigate the diet. Beginner, fruit in the morning, salad, grain, cooked veggie or potato yam at lunch, salad, cooked veggie, animal protein in the evening. Step 2, you do juice in the morning, avocado salad, lunch, heavier dinner. Step 3 is juice, fruits, heavier dinner. And then once you're really in, if you choose to want to, I recommend this for people once you cross 50, you try to graduate to a 1 meal a day game, where you're doing juice all day, 1 meal, 5 or 6 o'clock, call it a day. That takes a few years of being in the game before you play that game.
How many clients do you have that do that now, that are 50, 60 years old?
Well, I have a lot of people even younger that have done the 1 meal a day thing for a long, long time. I would say at least 25% of the people who come in.
Is that just solid food?
Yeah, the juice doesn't count. They do juice twice a day, and then they have a solid meal in the evening. There's a lot, and the reason they do it is when they test it, it works. You feel like, but that's something one graduates to. You don't want to do that out of the gate, because to be honest, that requires weekly colonics. Because it's such a radical cleansing of old matter, you have to keep up. So that's something, if a person's very motivated by this, they look at down the road. If you're not motivated by it, you'll still do fabulous with those other things we laid out. Yeah. And what I recommend, it sounds funny, but if you're in your 30s and you want to just keep it level 1 or 2, that's great. When you hit my age, I'm 67, at that point, you start thinking about pushing the envelope if you want to watch your grandchildren get married. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But if you're in your 20s and 30s, those first 2 levels are fabulous. Progress, not perfection. It's not the Olympics. Who cares if some person on the internet is telling you that they just drink lemon water all day? Who cares?
When you're in a treatment with someone, you are probably sussing out their health in a way. And I mean their initial treatment, like their very first treatment. Mm-hmm. You're probably sussing out their health. What signs and or symptoms do you look for? That's a good one. Okay, that's a great question. Since 99% of the clients are female, thank God, guys are tough. There's so much on it. So they're stiff, they can't move. It's embarrassing to be a straight guy. But since the bulk of the clients are women, the number one sign for me to get a little bit of sense of a person's digestive health and health in general, I'll ask, what is your experience with your menstrual cycle? Now, and I don't want to, I'm going to say this following thing, it's not a judgment, it's a concern. But when I ask people what's their menstrual cycle, what I often get back, and this is new, for years I never heard this. In the last year, I hear this way more than I want, like a lot. I don't really get a period, I have an IUD. I knew you were going to say
Please
that.
don't do that. Ladies, please. I'm going to be blunt here. And again, I say this from a hard space, having 2 daughters who, thank God, have listened to me on this one. No guy is that good a fuck to warrant you damaging your body like that. None. Do not put these objects in your body, please. And if you have one, please take it out. Please. I'm not judging. You can be the most fabulous human in the world. You can be Madame Curie. But please take this out. It is not helping your being. The fluid needs to leave the body. This is a metal thing in the most delicate, most precious area of your body. Please.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please do.
Can I-
Anything that helps this, yes. This is a
Can
very
I-
big cause of mine.
I'm going to very quickly add to that because as a woman, I was put on birth control in 8th grade. And we talked about this before. I was put on birth control in 8th grade, and that was just because I was having horrific cramping. And it helped, but I read a book by Elisa Vitti called The Woman Code. And I learned a lot about just what birth control does to the body. One big thing that I took from it was that it basically masks a potential fertility issue that you could have in the future. Also say it puts a Band-Aid on the symptom. You're not getting down to the root cause.
Correct.
And so I read that and I took to it immediately. So yeah, I went off of birth control. And it's so funny because it took 9 months for me to get my period, and then you actually suggested wild yam
cream.
the wild yam cream, and it changed my life. And I'm saying this because it made me happier. It made my sex drive better. It just made me feel better energetically in every single way. So I just also want to point out that as a woman too, for a million reasons, it can change your life for the better. And an IUD, I've had a traumatic different episode. I had a really traumatic experience with an IUD. I didn't end up getting it. I passed out. So please, speak your truth.
Good. And again, we're not saying anything about anyone who has this, and I don't want to get into all the conspiracy, angry, radical people stuff, but if you're thinking about this, please do not. If you're on this thing and listening to us, I'm going to assume that means you're into progressive health and you care about your physical being. So if you're taking the time out to listen to this, trust me on this one, please. If you're thinking about getting one of these things, do not stick that metal thing in your arm, whatever the hell that thing is. All this birth control device stuff destroys the woman's body. Sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly. There's other ways. Please don't do that. Okay, so that's one thing. We always tell people if your period, and my younger daughter, Jadie, she tells people this all the time. I don't push people into this. My children, I'm a Libra, so I'm not a conflict guy. So I'm not a conflict person. So with my kids, they saw me, Dad, what is this you're into? Because they didn't live with me till they were 13. They were with their mom in Thailand. And then Jenny, my older daughter, started meeting the women here. And since she didn't have a mother figure, she really was taken. And just from meeting the fabulousness of my clientele, she got all in. Now, without me ever demanding anything, does a treatment a week. My younger daughter resisted. She was in a bad relationship. She had a weight problem. She had gotten very heavy. I tried to talk to her, but I could feel I didn't know how to navigate it. She got rid of her bad guy, redid her life, and said, I'm ready to go. Went from 180 to 120. And in that time, she had an 8-day period that destroyed her life once a month. She immediately, upon loss of the weight, was walking through a 2-day menstrual cycle. To this day, says it's the greatest shift in my life. And she's a more extrovert than Jenny. She tells everybody that I went from 8 days of hell to 1 day of maybe feeling a twinge. Do you know what I mean? So we know on a scale that the more traumatic a period is, the worse the digestion, the elimination, the health are. So that's a big question. I always ask people, this is a biggie, what their bowel habits are. You'd be amazed how many people say they routinely miss 2 or 3 days. Now, if someone says they routinely miss 2 or 3 days, they're unhealthy, they're sick. Doesn't matter if they have a sickness, doesn't matter how they look, doesn't matter if they take bar classes. If they're not eliminating every day, you're sick. You're the boat with the hole, not enough water yet. You see, so I don't say that to them because I'm as strong as this may come across. When I'm with people, I don't do that. I never make people feel incapable, but I'm in my head, I'm like, I gotta get this happening for this girl. That's when you look at somebody's skin, and then I read. Like when every people walk in, there's ways to read eyes. So I always eye read to see energy levels. I can see what's going on in the kidney bladder through the eyes. I look at ankles. Even if a woman is thin, or a man, but you see more women, if the ankles are watery and puffy and wider than they should be, they think it's fat. It's not fat. It's so much gas and matter in the transverse colon that the body expands like a balloon, presses into the kidney can't drain, the bladder can't drain, they hold water in the ankles. So that's something we look at. I look for watery feet, because you see that in a lot of folks. Even if they're thin, you look down below the middle shin, and I'm like,
And it's not,
colon pressing into kidney.
it's not just because they're on their feet all day.
No, you can tell the differences. I can tell the differences. The other thing, too, is what we always look at is when someone's lying on a colonic table on their back. If you're in really good cellular health, your pelvic bones and your bottom ribs should be higher than your belly. It should go that way. When I go pelvic bone, like if I'm lying on the table and I put my hands on my pelvic bones, the middle of my hand is touching air. There's nothing there. See? So if I'm getting like a yarmulke on the person's gut, now I know they're holding. I'm not going to say anything to them because that's not, but I know they're. Now the other thing is with protein people, you get people where they're flat but hard as this table. It's like a rock. That means they have embedded, encrusted colon full of matter. Because even if you have the most developed abs in the world, if you're in a good intestinal space where you're mostly empty, the greatest abs will move around like pizza dough when they're relaxed. So if I touch somebody's stomach and it doesn't budge, there's a person. Yeah, there should always be movement, no matter how many sit-ups or crunches you do. Yeah. So those are all the ways we tell.
A lot of people don't know that too because
they think they have ab muscles. I'm like, nope, you got shit.
Great. It's like your stomach is supposed to move around.
Yes.
It doesn't mean it doesn't mean jiggle or you're not saying like that. You're supposed to.
Correct.
But there's supposed to be a movement.
Bruce Lee used to talk about that.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee used to talk about that. The body should only be hardened like the wall when you fill it full of blood. So when you tense, a healthy body will feel solid. But when you're relaxed, you should feel somewhat soft. Yeah. You see these weightlifter men who eat so much animal. Feel my arm, I'm not even flexing. Feels like a rock. Yeah, because you're full of carbonic gas and nitrogen waste. It's not health. Yeah, it's not health. No. See? So a strong body is going to be supple, but when it's relaxed, it should be movable. If it's tight like cement, it's poisoned, no matter how one thinks it looks.
That's so interesting. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I always say to my boyfriend about his friends, because a lot of them, sorry, they're listening. A lot of them are like lifters and stuff like that, and like he even jokes. He's like they send each other like funny workout Instagram videos, whatever, about lifting or what is it when a guy is next to another guy like while he's bench pressing. He's helping him, whatever. Spotting.
See, the thing is, the lifting is great. The lifting is fab. The lifestyle that goes with it, the constant eating, the protein powders, is not. The drugs, that's what you let go of. Squat all you want. Yeah. But put your ego on the shelf. Right? You can't be healthy and squat 700 pounds. That means you're stimulated by weight and protein. It's a trade. One of the things that why working with men is so hard. This lifestyle works for women because it makes you leaner. Yeah. Every woman wants to be leaner, so it plays into a motivation. But with men, I've had guys 10 years younger than I worked with a guy 2 months ago. Guy has prostate cancer. Stage 3, advanced. Yeah. Right? He's in his 50s. So I'm talking to him about the diet and the life, and he's a workout biker. Right? Like Lance Armstrong type, that type shit. So I explained the whole time, what he says? but I'm going to lose muscle. I can't lose muscle. I said, you're trying not to die. Right. That's what we're trying to do is keep you here.
Right.
You're worrying about your muscle? Like, this is what it's like trying to break through the hetero man's consciousness. He's got stage 3 prostate cancer, and his reluctance to do the diet is that he's going to thin down.
No, I'm like you because, like, you know, my whole goal and your goal, you know, is being a teacher, right? So it's letting go of that thing where you're like, did I do my job, though? I gave you the information. Mm-hmm. What they do with it when they leave?
Yeah.
You have to. It's
when a horse to water, can't make him drink.
You've got to let it go, and
you do.
And that's part of that's also ego.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And like that's something. I mean, maybe it's to me. I don't know. I think it's a mixture of the lifestyle and transcendental meditation. I always credit the two for changing my life. But is it still like even because you said most are women that come here? Is that still so? It's muscle for men. That's the entire problem.
Small. I mean, it's all, when you look at it, it's all subconscious. You go back to the beginning of time, it's survival of the fittest, the strongest men survived. That's still deep in our DNA.
Yeah.
But in the modern world, the way the world is now structured, it doesn't have the same application.
Yeah.
No one's running around with a club beating each other up.
Thank God.
At least not everywhere in the city.
Sometimes on the subway, only on the subway.
Yeah. But it is rougher with guys because of that.
Yeah.
And you straight guys tell me that too. If they're a workout guy, like for instance,
CrossFit.
If you do a lot of high protein, yes, as you cross your 40s, your prostate as a man is going to get ravaged from the high protein diet. So you're up, that's all that thing where they wake up, they have to pee, they can't pee, they have to pee, I have to go back, I can't sleep, I have to, all that stuff you read about. So they get into this, and the first thing I tell them is, guy will come in my height, 200 pounds buff. I'm like, look, we're going to get you down to 160. And that's why I won't do it. I said, I can't heal you if you keep the weight. The weight is the sickness. The muscle is the sickness. The prostate is the result. The sickness is the retention in your cells. I've got to pull it out or I cannot fix you and keep the weight.
When talking about food combining and breaking down the principles, you know, obviously fruit alone in the morning before anything else. Something you pointed out to me and now I can't not notice it. Is that whenever I'm explaining that one concept to people, you hear my avocado toast, but wait, my eggs, my coffee, my this. The word my gets thrown in a lot because they have their ritual. Can you talk about that a little bit and just, I guess, the emotion behind breakfast? For
sure. People get connected to things where they identify with whatever it is they're doing, and it's very hard to get them to let go.
Yeah.
You know, I had a client once. I remember her husband was a chiropractor. He sent her to us. She had all these issues. Tall, thin woman, and she was wacky and all over the map. And she asked me about Prozac. At the time, it was very popular. Prozac was the original antidepressant, way back in the 90s. And I said, honey, and it was known, it was bad. And I said, you know, you really don't want to do that.
Oh, you told her don't
do she was on it. And she goes, what do you think of it? But she led me in. See, she goes, what do you think? I'm on Prozac. I said, well, and then she pitched a fit and said, how dare you say that about my Prozac? That was the first time I ever, and she got up and left. And that's, you know, people get attached to things and they actually believe, you know, I can't wake up if I don't have my X, whatever that is.
Were you, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I don't mean to. When you, do you get nervous about telling somebody if they're on a prescription medication to not be on it?
No, I would never do that. The reason I did it in this case is because her husband kind of begged me to. I knew him well. He's like, look, she's breaking down. They're playing around. Just see if, you know, she listens to you, blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
But the minute I said that, and I was gentle with it, she freaked and owned it. Like, she jumped up. She was sitting Indian style on the floor in my apartment in Windsor Court on 31st Street and jumped up. Don't you say that about my Prozac. And out she went. And I was like, okay. So people do own their stuff. So if you study neurolinguistic programming, which is it's a system that teaches you how to communicate and how that when you speak, you want the other person calm and peaceful and open to what you're going to say. You don't want them tense, ready for a fight.
Yeah.
So when people do that, I'll say to them, well, let me ask you, suppose they say they have to have their avocados. What would it feel like if we were just to say for one day, you just tried having 2 grapefruits instead of the toast with no commitment to having to stick to it?
Yeah.
What would it feel like to do that for just one day? And they calm down and they realize, of course, they could do it.
Right.
You say, so let's just try. Can you do it for one day? And let's see how it works.
You say one day. I usually will say 3 days.
You can say 3. But to me, the key thing with people is you make them capable. You want to always give them something they can do. So if someone is pitching a fit and I sense, well, they're really attached, I'll go really easy. If they're wavery, you do 3 days. But you always want to do things to invite them in. It's the same way if someone comes here, no matter how bad the symptom is, has a first treatment. I knew it was traumatic for them to come. They were scared stiff. And it works. They're happy. It worked. I got through it. Like doing your first skydive, right? So they finish and they say, when should I come back? Now, my kids have been here when I've done this. Other clients have been there. The other therapists, when I had a big space, chakra, would look, why'd you say that? I said, could you do 6 weeks? They said, I could do that. I said, I'll see you in 6 weeks. Now, I know everybody, they need to be here in 3 days.
You used to say 6 weeks to me.
Because
the
that was
very
all,
first time.
that's all they were capable of hearing. They finished something that they perceived to be traumatic and lived through it. They're feeling good about themselves. I want to give them something that when I say it, I want to hear, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then what happens with time is they step in, the light bulb goes off. It's always walk before you run.
Oh, yeah.
You see? So with the dietetics, if someone's hanging on to the avocado toast, then my last level is okay. Let's start with the avocado toast. But as a trade, since I'm bending with you, can we do that and do 3 celery sticks and a bell pepper first to get raw food in the body? Could you do that?
The day before.
No, the minute before. In other words, if they're going to wake up and want avocado toast, you're talking about for breakfast. What I'm going to say to them is at the very end, because it's cooked food alone, which is not so good, I'm going to say, look, can we have 3 celery sticks and a bell pepper while you're prepping the avocado toast? So at least raw food and alkalinity are into the body. Can you give me that? And they always do because you gave to them.
Yeah.
And then with time, as you win them in, they always change. I've seen that. There's a great story. It's a Chinese proverb called the North Wind and the Sun. And for everyone who's an influencer, if you're a healing coach, if you're any kind of coach, if you're a haircut, whatever it is you do where you're trying to help people turn, this is a fabulous fable. The north wind turns to the sun in the sky and says, you know what, everybody gives you so much credit for being the center of the universe. You're overrated. I'm a lot stronger than you. I'll prove it to you. And the sun's like, go ahead. So he says, you see down there, that guy walking with that big cloak on? I'm going to blow that cloak right off his back. And so the wind starts blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. And the guy's hanging on to that coat like this, and he's hanging on, but he's not letting go. And finally the wind stops, says, that guy's never going to take the coat off. The sun says, let me try. And the wind says, what are you going to do? So the sun hits him with a glowing, loving, beautiful ray of sunshine and light, and the guy takes off the coat voluntarily.
I love
That's how you do life. You do not push. You do not tell meat eaters they're murderers. You do not tell people who don't recycle that they're killing the planet. You don't do that. See, you give people things to encourage them, to make them capable, and they will voluntarily come to your side.
Yeah.
You see? So when somebody comes at me with, or my blood sugar's terrible, for now I need hard-boiled eggs in the morning. I hear that one a lot. So, okay, can you give me 3 celery sticks and maybe half a box of Earthbound Farms greens and then the hard-boiled eggs? I can do that, and now I got them on the path. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
And when you get into this life and your cells get clean, being that way gets a lot easier. But you've got to like red carpet people when you work in this, because this is radical stuff.
It is.
You know, people are going from eating boxes of cereal to an apple. Like to them, that's like massive. You always want to be in that space. So that's how I would handle something like that. And then eventually you bring them around. Just place it in a way. There's always a way. And then say, look, eventually we want to get off this, but for now it's okay. And they always do. Especially if they keep doing the colonics, because what happens is the cleaner you get, the snobbier your cells get.
Yes.
all of a sudden the things you used to do that were okay are not okay. And that's what we want to happen to people. I love hearing that. Oh, God, I went out last night for sushi. I hadn't had it since I started this. I thought I was going to die. Excellent. That means your body's strong and telling you, please don't do that.
It's funny, any client I work with, like when I've worked with clients one-on-one, that has basically happened where they will, follow a plan and sort of, cook at home a bunch and like eat in the lifestyle and do the food combining and everything, and then the second maybe day 10 or something that they go out to a restaurant, they're like,
they get hammered.
Oh, they go, I feel it.
Yep.
They go, I feel
that
it.
Experience brings more people into it. Mm-hmm. They realize, wow, what was I doing to myself?
They feel the difference.
Yeah, they realize, they look at the two options and clearly the wellness wins.
Yeah.
And they stop doing whatever they did. And that's how you want people to evolve, because that doesn't require discipline.
Right.
See, if people exert too much discipline at the beginning, they're going to cave in.
Yeah.
So that's why we give these transitional diets. For people out there, if you're very new, let's say you want to cheat, you want pepperoni pizza, something really that a Reuben.
Cheat means processed food.
Normal stuff, like that is harmful. A turkey club sandwich, right? Something really bad.
Chemicals.
Meatball Parmesan Hero. That was always my favorite on Staten Island. So what you would do is you wait for the last meal of the day, because you can't eat on top of a cheat because it'll ferment and blow up in your belly. So you wait for the last meal. You do a huge naked green salad. No oils this time, no avocados, because you're going to balance what you're about to do to yourself. We call naked salads bulletproof vests. They prevent what you're about to do from killing you. See? So you do a big naked salad, you do some steamed asparagus or something like that, and then you go right for your cheat. Pepperoni pizza, lasagna, Black Forest cake, creme brulee, whatever it is you're craving, salad, cooked vegetables, cheat. Don't eat till tomorrow. Don't eat or drink water before bed. As a beginner, you can get away with that. If you wake up in the morning knowing you want to cheat that night, go uber light through the day. Juice in the morning, salad with one avocado, then prep your dinner and cheat. At the beginning, you can do that a few times a week, because we walk before we run. Progress, not perfection. No one is asked to be perfect. For science sake, the body wants an alkaline pH. The food gives us the pH that we have. We want to have a pH over 7. The only alkaline foods are fruit, vegetables, and mother's milk from a healthy mother. Everything else is acidic. Most health foods are not health foods. They're just not as bad foods.
Our stomachs are acidic, though, by nature, right? Aren't they? Our stomachs.
Yes, but it has to do with the residue once it's through the body. It has the path is different, but once it lodges through into the colon, if it's acidic in the colon, it's sticking. You see? So, you work on the pH by gradually stepping into the dietetics. But be aware that the only true human food are vegetables and fruits. Yeah. Sunflower seeds aren't health foods. They're just better than pork chops. Yeah. See, hemp seeds are not health foods. They don't help the body. They just hurt a lot less than white flour.
Yeah, people are really big on the seed oil thing, right?
Yeah, it's nonsense.
You think
the
so?
Therapeutic use of fats, I don't touch. There are rare cases.
Don't eat seed oils. People are being...
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the therapeutic use of oils. No, seed oils are deadly, especially if you cook with them. That's not nonsense. Yeah. That's the truth. What's nonsense is the therapeutic use of fats as a healer is nonsense.
Like
now, there are any fats. Oh, those words, the numbers, you need your omega, this, that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so people are gulping oil like it's good for them. Nonsense.
Yeah, like
there are rare occasions, rare occasions where that works, but so rare they're not worth discussing.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to be thinking food with high fat is good because of the fat. There's a term they use now, it needs to go away, macronutrients, which means carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and they're telling you have to get enough of them. There's a concept out now that's all over the internet called 30-30-30. It's about having animal protein, 30 grams a clip, which is a steak, 3 times a day, and it gives all this bullshit double talk about your hormone levels, how it fixes your hormone levels. Bullshit. It's medical, scientific bullshit. You don't eat animal proteins 3 times a day. They're telling this to women to help with their hormones. Nonsense. And it's pushed by a lot of MDs, the carnivore doctors.
You told me this.
Yeah, do not listen to this. If you look it up online, it's horrific.
Because there's a lot of testosterone as
Correct.
well.
Correct. But here's what makes testosterone so bad in big amounts. It triggers the growth of dormant cancer in every cell you have. So all the sleeping sickness, we talked at the beginning, the boat thing, everyone has some water in their boat. All the sleeping water gets ignited by testosterone. And the proof of this, the proof of this is every culture that keeps a record since the beginning of time. You look at all the abuse women go through. You look at all the bad treatment, the fact that they have kids, all the horseshit, the lack of pay, everything that's happened to them on the planet. Every single culture, the woman outlives the man. Every single culture by a minimum of 4 years. Yeah. Proof to the superiority of the female being.
I'm so grateful that you all are getting the opportunity to learn from Gil the way that I have been learning from him for years. If this episode inspired you to dive deeper into your health and you want to raise the bar on your vitality, I highly recommend 2 things. One is Gil's masterclass on deep tissue cleansing hosted by the Everyday Detox Academy. And trust me, this man has given over 70,000 colonics. So he is the word on the street for how your system works and how you can take care of it. And 2, Mike Perrine, aka the man behind Everyday Detox, masterclass on eliminating the toxic load. You've heard me quote and mention Mike a ton on this channel, and that's because he's another person in the cleansing life that I look up to and respect and take advice from. And because you're part of the Combined by Alana community, I'm giving you $100 off of any masterclass or masterclass bundle with code COMBINED100 at checkout. If you're interested, you can find the links to each class and class bundle in the show notes of this episode, and you'll also be able to check out sample videos and sections of what each class entails. Happy learning!